Most people think finding their soulmate means finding someone who completes them, but what if I told you that's exactly backwards? What if the most powerful connection you'll ever experience isn't about filling what's missing, but about two people who are already whole coming together? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will completely change how you see relationships. We spend our entire lives searching for that one person, the person who gets us, the person who understands us on a level nobody else does. And society tells us we're incomplete without them, but here's something most people never realize. When two people who have truly awakened to themselves meet, something entirely different happens. It's not about dependency, it's not about need, it's about something far more profound. And today, we're going to explore exactly what unfolds when two awakened souls cross paths. Let me paint you a picture. Think about most relationships you see around you, maybe even relationships you've been in yourself. There's this constant push and pull. One person needs validation. The other needs reassurance. Someone's trying to change the other person. Someone's waiting for the other to make them happy. It's exhausting, isn't it? We've been conditioned to believe that love means finding someone to complete us, as if we're walking around as half people searching for our other half. Movies tell us this, songs sing about it. Your well-meaning friends and family probably believe it too. Find the one who completes you, they say. But here's the problem with that entire framework. If you're incomplete, you're bringing that incompleteness into the relationship. You're asking another person to fill a void that exists within you. And what happens? You become dependent. You become needy. You start looking to this other person to provide your happiness, your sense of worth, your feeling of security. And the other person, they feel the weight of that expectation. They feel the pressure to be everything you need. And eventually, both people end up disappointed, because no one can complete another person. No one can fill someone else's void. That's not what connection is about. Think about it for a second. When you enter a relationship from a place of lack, what are you really looking for? You're looking for someone to rescue you from yourself, to save you from your own loneliness, your own insecurities, your own fears. You're hoping that their presence will somehow make all your internal struggles disappear, but it doesn't work that way. Your internal world doesn't magically transform because someone else shows up. If anything, relationships have a way of magnifying what's already there. If you're insecure when you're single, that insecurity doesn't vanish when you're in a relationship. It just finds new ways to express itself: jealousy, control, anxiety, fear of abandonment. This is the challenge most people face in relationships. They're trying to use another person as a solution to their own inner chaos, and it creates this cycle. The relationship becomes a battleground of unmet needs and unfulfilled expectations. Both people are waiting for the other to provide something that can only come from within. So what's the alternative? What happens when two people who have done the inner work, who have found wholeness within themselves, come together? That's what we're here to explore. The recognition beyond words. When two awakened souls meet, the first thing that happens is recognition. But this isn't the kind of recognition where you think you've met someone before. It's deeper than that. It's a recognition of essence, of being. It's like looking into a mirror that reflects not your face, but your true nature. You see, most people interact on the level of personality. We show each other our masks, our carefully constructed identities. We present the version of ourselves we want others to see, the successful version, the confident version, the version that has it all together, and we hope the other person accepts that version. But between two awakened souls, there's no need for masks. There's an immediate transparency, not because anyone's trying to be vulnerable or authentic in some performative way, but because when you've truly awakened to yourself, you're no longer identified with those masks. You see through your own personality structure. You understand it's just a role you play, not who you actually are. So when two people with this understanding meet, they recognize each other beneath the surface. They see past the social conditioning, past the ego structures, past all the stories and narratives each person carries about themselves. And in that recognition, there's an instant understanding. This doesn't mean they know everything about each other's history or experiences. That comes later. This is about recognizing the same quality of awareness in the other person. It's like two people who have both been to the same place, even though they took completely different paths to get there. And here's what's beautiful about this recognition. It doesn't create attachment. You're not thinking, finally, I found the one person who understands me, and now I need to hold on to them forever, because that would be coming from ego again, from fear, from the need to possess and control. Instead, there's appreciation, there's joy in the meeting, but there's also freedom, because you're not looking to extract something from the other person. You're not trying to get them to validate your existence or confirm your worth. You already have that within yourself. Think about how different this is from typical attraction. Usually when we're attracted to someone, it's because we think they have something we want. Maybe they're successful, and we want to feel successful by association. Maybe they're beautiful, and we want to feel valuable because someone beautiful chose us. Maybe they're emotionally available, and we want them to fix our emotional unavailability. But between awakened souls, the attraction isn't about getting something. It's about sharing something. It's about the joy of experiencing life alongside someone who is also awake to the fullness of existence. There's no neediness in this recognition, no clinging, no fear of loss, because you understand at a fundamental level that nothing can truly be lost. Forms change. Relationships evolve. People come and go. But the essence that you recognize in the other person, that same essence exists in you. It's not separate. It's not other. It's the same consciousness experiencing itself through different forms. This might sound abstract, but it has very practical implications. When you meet someone from this place, conversations happen differently. You're not performing, you're not trying to impress, you're not calculating what to say to get a certain response. You're simply present, and so are they. Silences become comfortable, not awkward, because you're not filling space with noise to avoid feeling uncomfortable with yourself. You're okay with silence. In fact, you might even enjoy it, because in that silence, there's a shared presence that words would only interrupt. And when you do speak, the words come from a different place, not from the mind trying to construct an identity or defend a position, but from something deeper, from genuine curiosity, from authentic response, from the spontaneous flow of being. This is the first layer of what unfolds between awakened souls, recognition not of personality, but of essence, not of form, but of formless awareness. And in that recognition, the foundation is set for something truly extraordinary, the absence of projection. Here's where things get really interesting. In most relationships, we're not actually seeing the other person, we're seeing our projection of them. We're seeing our hopes, our fears, our expectations, our fantasies, all projected onto this human being in front of us. You think you love them, but what you actually love is the image you've created of them in your mind, the version of them that fits your narrative, the version that plays the role you need them to play in your life story. And this creates so many problems, because the real person inevitably does something that doesn't match your projection. They say something you didn't expect. They make a choice you disagree with. They have needs that conflict with yours. And suddenly, you're disappointed, you're hurt, you feel betrayed. Not because they did anything wrong, but because they failed to live up to the image you created of them. But when two awakened souls meet, projection doesn't happen in the same way, or if it starts to happen, there's awareness of it. There's the ability to catch yourself in the act of projecting and to see through it. This is huge, because it means you can actually see the other person as they are, not as you want them to be, not as you fear they might be, but as they actually are, right now, in this moment and seeing someone as they actually are is an act of love, real love, not the conditional love that says, I'll love you if you meet my expectations, but the unconditional love that says, I see you as you are, and I appreciate your existence exactly as it is. This doesn't mean you agree with everything they do. It doesn't mean you don't have preferences. But your love for them isn't contingent on them being a certain way. You're not trying to mold them into your ideal partner. You're not waiting for them to change into the person you think they should be. You see their flaws and you don't need them to be different. You see their strengths and you don't feel threatened by them. You see their uniqueness and you don't try to make them more like you. There's acceptance, not passive resignation, but active appreciation for what is. And here's the paradox. When someone is truly seen and accepted as they are, without pressure to change, that's often when natural growth happens. Not because they're trying to become someone else to please you, but because they feel safe enough to explore who they really are. In most relationships, people are so busy defending themselves, protecting themselves, hiding their true nature, that there's no space for genuine growth. Everyone's wearing armor, everyone's in survival mode. But between awakened souls, the armor isn't necessary. The defenses can come down, and in that vulnerability, there's tremendous freedom. You can share your fears without worrying that the other person will use them against you. You can express your desires without fear of judgment. You can be completely yourself, whatever that looks like in any given moment, without performing or pretending, and the other person can do the same. There's space for both people to exist fully, not as two halves making a whole, but as two whole people choosing to share their wholeness with each other. This absence of projection also means there's less drama. Most relationship drama comes from unmet expectations, from the gap between who you want the other person to be and who they actually are. But when you're not projecting expectations onto them, that gap doesn't exist. They do what they do. You see it clearly. You respond authentically. There's no story about what it means or what they should have done. Instead, this might sound like it would make relationships boring, like without drama and projection, what's left? But actually, the opposite is true. When you're not caught up in drama, when you're not spending all your energy managing projections and expectations, there's space for something deeper, for real intimacy, for genuine connection, for the kind of presence with each other that most people only experience in brief moments, if at all. The dance of independence and togetherness. Now let's talk about something that confuses a lot of people. How do two whole, complete, awakened individuals come together without losing their individuality? How do you have deep connection without dependence? How do you maintain your own path while walking alongside someone else? Conventional relationships, there's often this merging that happens. Two people become we. And while that sounds romantic, what often happens is both people lose touch with themselves. They stop doing the things they love because those things don't include their partner. They stop spending time alone because being alone feels like abandoning the relationship. They start making every decision based on what's good for us. Even if it means sacrificing what's true for them as individuals, this creates resentment over time. Both people feel like they've given up parts of themselves, and they might blame the relationship or their partner for that loss, when really it was their own choice to abandon themselves. But between awakened souls, there's a different understanding. There's recognition that togetherness and independence aren't opposites. They're complementary. You can be deeply connected to someone while maintaining your own completeness. In fact, you can only be truly connected when you're not trying to merge or disappear into the other person. Imagine two trees growing next to each other. Their branches might intertwine. Their roots might touch underground. They share the same soil, the same sun, the same rain. But they remain two distinct trees, each with their own trunk, their own root system, their own unique way of growing toward the light. That's what it looks like when two awakened souls come together. They share space, they share experiences, They support each other's growth, but they don't try to become one tree. They honor each other's separateness even as they celebrate their connection. This means practical things. It means you can spend time apart without feeling like the relationship is threatened. It means you can have your own interests, your own friendships, your own practices, your own rhythms without your partner feeling excluded or abandoned. It means you can be happy for your partner's growth and success, even if that growth takes them in a direction different from yours. You're not threatened by their evolution. You're not trying to keep them small or stagnant so they don't outgrow you, because you understand that their growth doesn't diminish you. If anything, it enriches the connection between you. There's also an understanding that you can't meet all of each other's needs, and that's perfectly okay. Your partner doesn't have to be your best friend, your therapist, your business partner, your workout buddy, your intellectual equal in every subject, and your spiritual guide all at once. That's an impossible burden to place on one person. Instead, there's freedom for both people to have a full life that includes the relationship but isn't defined by it. You have friends who fulfill certain needs, hobbies that bring you joy, practices that support your growth, and your partner has the same. And you come together not because you need each other to have a complete life, but because you choose to share your already complete lives with each other. This doesn't mean you're not committed. In fact, this is a deeper form of commitment. You're not staying together because you're afraid to be alone or because you've become dependent on each other. You're choosing to be together continuously because the connection genuinely adds value to both your lives. And here's something beautiful. When you're together from this place of independence, presence becomes possible. You're not distracted by fears about the relationship. You're not wondering if they still love you or if you're doing enough to keep them interested. You're simply here with them, sharing this moment. And in that shared presence, there's intimacy that goes beyond physical or emotional closeness. There's a meeting in consciousness itself. Two aware beings recognizing awareness in each other, sharing the experience of being alive. This is the dance. Coming together, moving apart, coming together again, not out of need or obligation, but out of genuine desire and appreciation, not clinging when you're together, not feeling abandoned when you're apart, just flowing with what each moment asks for. The transformation through mirroring. Something fascinating happens when two awakened souls spend time together. They become mirrors for each other, but not in the way that happens in unconscious relationships, where you trigger each other's wounds and react from those triggers. This is a different kind of mirroring. When you're awake to yourself, you start to see patterns. You notice your own conditioning, your automatic reactions, the ways you close down or defend or contract. But it's one thing to see these patterns on your own, and another thing entirely to see them reflected back to you through relationship. The other person, without even trying, will show you aspects of yourself you might not have noticed, not through criticism or judgment, simply through their presence, through the way you respond to them, through what gets activated in you when you're with them. Maybe you notice a tendency to want to control situations when you're around them, not because they're making you controlling, but because something about the intimacy of the connection triggers an old fear, and control is your habitual response to that fear. Or maybe you notice yourself withdrawing when things get too close, not because there's anything wrong with closeness, but because some old pattern in you still equates vulnerability with danger. The beautiful thing about being awakened is you can see these patterns without being completely identified with them. You're not defending them or justifying them. You're just noticing, oh, look at that, there's that pattern again. And in that noticing, there's space between the trigger and the response, space to choose differently. And the other person, if they're also awake, isn't taking your patterns personally. They're not making your withdrawal mean they're not good enough. They're not making your need for control mean they need to fight for dominance. They're simply witnessing, and in their witnessing, without judgment, there's an invitation for you to witness yourself more clearly. This creates a relationship that is inherently transformative, not because you're trying to fix each other or change each other, but because the quality of awareness you bring to the relationship naturally illuminates unconscious patterns. And in that illumination, those patterns lose their power. You might see your partner react to something in a way that seems totally out of proportion. And instead of getting defensive or making it about you, you can be curious. You can create space for them to explore what's really happening under the surface. And in that exploration, with your support and presence, they might touch something old, something they've been carrying for years, and finally be able to let it go. And they do the same for you. There's this mutual support for each other's continued awakening, not awakening as a one-time event that happened in the past, but as an ongoing process of seeing through illusion, releasing conditioning, and becoming more fully yourself. This is very different from relationships where both people are invested in maintaining their stories, where questioning someone's narrative feels like an attack, where growth is threatening, because it might mean the relationship has to change. Between awakened souls, growth is celebrated, change is welcomed, evolution is natural. There's trust that whatever unfolds is exactly what needs to unfold. Even if that means the relationship itself transforms into something different than what it started as, there's also something important here about challenge. In awakened connection, you're not trying to keep everything peaceful and comfortable all the time. Sometimes real love means challenging the other person, calling them out when they're being unconscious, refusing to enable their patterns. But this challenge doesn't come from judgment or superiority. It comes from care, from the desire to support the other person's highest potential. And because it comes from that place, it can be received not as criticism, but as an offering. You trust that if your partner points something out to you, they're not trying to make you wrong. They're showing you something you might not be seeing. And you can look at it without defensiveness. You can consider it. And if it resonates, you can work with it. If it doesn't, you can let it go without needing to prove anything. This kind of mirroring accelerates growth in a way that's almost impossible to achieve alone. Because we all have blind spots. We all have patterns we can't see from inside them. But in relationship with someone who sees clearly and loves unconditionally, those blind spots get illuminated, and we have the opportunity to become more conscious, more awake, more free. The freedom in non-attachment. Let's talk about something that might sound contradictory at first. The deepest connection happens when there's no attachment, when there's complete freedom, when both people know at the core of their being that they're okay whether the relationship continues or not. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's not about protecting yourself from pain by not fully committing. It's actually the opposite. It's about being so completely present, so fully in the relationship that you're not busy protecting yourself or controlling outcomes. Most people enter relationships with a death grip. They're holding on tight because they're terrified of losing this person who has become their source of happiness, security, or identity. And that very grasping creates suffering, because nothing in form is permanent. Everything changes, everyone eventually leaves, whether through the end of the relationship or the end of life itself. So you spend your time together afraid they'll leave, afraid they'll change, afraid they'll stop loving you, afraid you're not enough. And that fear prevents you from actually enjoying what's here right now. But when you're awakened, you understand impermanence at a deep level, not just intellectually, but experientially. You know that forms come and go, This body you inhabit, it's temporary. This personality structure, it's constantly changing. Every thought, every emotion, every experience arises and passes away. And in that understanding, there's freedom. You can love someone completely without needing them to be permanent. You can commit fully to the relationship without needing to know it will last forever. You can be all in without attachment to outcome. This is what true love looks like. Not the possessive, needy love that says you're mine and I can't live without you, but the freeing love that says, I love you exactly as you are, I choose to be with you right now, and I release you to be whoever you need to be, even if that means leaving. And paradoxically, this is what creates the deepest intimacy. When someone knows they're truly free to leave and they choose to stay, that choice means something. It's not coming from obligation or fear or dependency. It's coming from genuine desire, from authentic choice. Every day, both people are choosing each other fresh, not because they have to, not because they made a promise years ago, not because leaving would be too difficult or too scary, but because right now, in this moment, being together feels true. And if one day it stops feeling true, then there's space for that too. There's trust that whatever unfolds is right, that if the relationship needs to end or transform, it will, and both people will be okay, because their well-being has never been dependent on the form of the relationship anyway. This doesn't mean you don't feel pain if the relationship ends. Of course you do. You're human. There's loss, there's grief. But underneath that pain, there's an okayness, a fundamental trust in life, a knowing that you're not actually separate from anything, so nothing can truly be lost. And while you're together, this non-attachment creates so much joy. You're not spending your energy trying to control or manage or secure the relationship. You're free to simply be with each other, to enjoy each moment for what it is, to laugh together, create together, explore together, grow together, without the shadow of fear hanging over everything. There's also space for the relationship to evolve naturally. Most relationships get stuck in patterns because both people are afraid of change. They've found something that works and they desperately try to keep it exactly the same forever. But that's not how life works. Everything is always changing. And when you resist change, you create suffering. Between awakened souls, there's allowance for change. If the relationship starts as romantic partnership and evolves into deep friendship, that's okay. If the intensity shifts, if the form transforms, if new people enter the picture, there's space to navigate that consciously, not from rules or agreements designed to prevent pain, but from ongoing communication, honesty, and trust in each other's awareness. You can talk about anything because nothing is too threatening to look at. You can be honest about your feelings because you're not afraid of feelings. You can explore new possibilities because you're not rigidly attached to how things have been. This is ultimate freedom, being so completely present with another person that you're not worried about tomorrow. So fully committed that you don't need guarantees. So deeply in love that you can hold it all lightly, and in that lightness, that spaciousness, that freedom from fear and attachment, what unfolds is magical, a connection that serves the highest evolution of both beings, a relationship that isn't trying to be anything other than what it is. Two awakened souls recognizing each other, celebrating each other, supporting each other, and ultimately freeing each other to be fully themselves. So what unfolds when two awakened souls meet? Everything we just explored. Recognition beyond words. The absence of projection. The dance of independence and togetherness. Transformation through mirroring. And the freedom that comes from non-attachment. But more than anything, what unfolds is possibility. The possibility of connection without need, intimacy without fear, love without condition, growth without resistance, presence without distraction. This isn't about finding a perfect person or becoming perfect yourself. It's about two imperfect humans who have done enough inner work to show up without their usual defenses, who can see each other clearly, who can be together without losing themselves, who can love freely without grasping. And here's the thing, this kind of connection isn't reserved for some special few. It's available to anyone willing to do the work of awakening, to turn inward, to question their conditioning, to release their attachments, to see through the illusion of separation. The relationship becomes not a distraction from your spiritual path, but an expression of it, not something that takes you away from yourself, but something that reveals you to yourself more clearly. And whether you're in a relationship right now or not, the invitation is the same. Wake up to yourself. Become whole within yourself. See through the stories you've been telling about who you are and what you need. And from that awakened place, everything that unfolds in your life, including your relationships, will be transformed. Because ultimately, the meeting of two awakened souls is just a reflection of the deeper truth, that there are no separate souls. There's only one consciousness experiencing itself through infinite forms, and when two forms recognize that truth, even for a moment, that's what we call love. If this perspective opens something for you, watch the next video to go even deeper.